Hello, hello, and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about something very, very intricate. So stay with me till the end. We're going to go over a lot of information, and this is all about the medicine wheel. So you can see here that we have the color scheme. We have red, black, white, and yellow, which will represent the elements as well. I'll get into that as we go. I wanted to begin with the animal totems. So we have the south here, represented by the wolf, and other times we will see the coyote as well. And then we go into the west, which is here represented by the bear. And then we go north, represented by the buffalo, and that represents abundance and wisdom. We then have the east, which is the eagle, illumination and clarity. So let me go through here because there are many renditions of the medicine wheel. Again, we have two animals here because they're very similar in nature, but they have a lot of differences as well. Some places do not have wolves, and so the closest thing is the coyote. And again, and also to clarify, this is a Native American deck, and we cannot really assume that all Native American tribes and clans are going to have the same definition of the medicine wheel. So for example, the Native American culture stems from the southern tip of Argentina all the way to the northern hemisphere of the Yukon, Alaska, and Canada. So it's impossible to really say that Native American culture is one solid culture. There are so many different renditions, so many different translations, and of course, everything that I will be showing you today is based upon Jamie Sam's medicine cards, as well as the Sacred Path cards. So I would like to read a passage from Jamie Sam's for you all because it's very pertinent to the reason why I am sharing this today. As you can see, my skin color does not reflect the teachings that I am showing you here, which are native. So I wanted to read this from Jamie Sam's. It says, I was concerned about the reaction I might encounter from those who believe that the sacred teachings are not to be shared. So I went to the grandmothers and asked, and I went to the elders who had been my teachers and asked, and they said, yes, it is time. They also reminded me that the teachings are to be shared through my personal experience, and the secret steps of ceremonies were not to be related. For there are those who would defile or misuse that information. She then goes on to say, our native way of life can bring a change in consciousness that opens new doors of expression and expansion. To understand the red people is to understand the red people is to reach out to another culture and share the beauty of our common paths. In doing so, we trust that our common goal will be attained: peace, truth, and healing for Mother Earth's children. When the children of Earth are healed, we may welcome the rainbow of peace into our hearts and trust that each medicine walk on the sacred path will bring new connections and good medicine that can be shared. In this way, we become the living prophecy of the fifth world of peace, which many of us will know for many names. The fifth world of peace is also the seventh fire. We've also heard it as the age of Aquarius, the dawn of a new age, Christ consciousness. There are so many different words to describe the same thing, which is this unity around Earth and this 5D connection to the divine. So, So I'm going to continue on here by giving you multiple different examples of how to use this medicine wheel. We have gone over the animals here, but there are a couple other animals that could be depicted in the medicine wheel by other shamans and healers around the continent of the Americas. So in the south here, where we have the wolf, you may also see the snake. This is transformation, transmutation, moving energy. We then could have in the west, the jaguar, which is protection of humanity, moving forward with the new age in mind. In the north, we may see the hummingbird, which is this gorgeous reflection of joy. They are literally rainbows, made of rainbows, and they go from flower to flower, smelling that sweet nectar and seeing those beautiful flowers. You will, however, almost always see the eagle in the east as he flies so high that he disappears. Therefore, he comes back down to earth with messages from the divine. So you will see courage and illumination here. Now, let's go through a little bit of this progression. What's happening here? So in the south, the reason why it's represented by wolves would be this running with the pack, trust, environment, behaviors, the way that we were raised, cultural indifference, the environment of which we were provided. And then the trickster of the coyote is sometimes in place of the wolf, and he represents, again, that trust. He can also represent sly ways of thinking, right? So a lot of times we'll find healing to be done here. Same with the snake there. We have release work, a letting go, a transmutation, a moving of energy. In the west here, we have the bear represented, and he is all about introspection and goals. So he goes into the cave and comes out a brand new bear in the spring. So in the cave, he's having his healing ceremonies. He is understanding new ways of thinking. And in the north here, we're represented by the buffalo because there's so much abundance with buffalo. They're such massive animals. There's lots of stories about how the buffalo in ancient times would not run from hunters. There's also the story of the hunters running them off of the cliff and having multiple different buffalo to choose from and to process for the tribe, right? So there's this beautiful abundance here. There's this gorgeous understanding here of what goals are here for, not only finding your own truth, but also in how you're going to help humanity. And then the eagle, again, is all by his lonesome because he has the one meaning, and that is full illumination, freedom, and the new perspective that will lead you through a new door. So for many different teachers, most actually, they will say that we begin in the east. The east is the new beginning, it's the dawn, it is where the sun comes up in the morning, it is the great number one, as we see here. For me personally, I love to start with the south because there's healing work here, and because there's a moving of energy, and there's a perspective shift that happens, and there's an opening up to the divine, and this opening of a door, which then leads us to the next step, the new beginning. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, so many times as I'm doing my readings and as I'm guiding people through this transformation process, many times in the south quadrant, which again is like a plus sign here, and it is split in fourths, and a lot of times we'll see this security. Again, the environment of which you were raised, the behaviors of your caretakers, and there's a lot of times something to be released here. So we have a lot of secrets as far as what is it that needs to be released in order to move forward. And then in the west with the bear, a lot of times I see solitude, inner peace, meditation, a stripping away of the old, and then understanding what you're left with, right? So if we're stripping away of old behaviors, old limiting beliefs, old thought patterns, and then we're tapping into the next stage of being, it would be solitude, And it would be personal truth. What is it that is your belief system if we strip away the belief systems of others and learn behaviors? And what that does is it allows us to be open to the other side. It allows us to open a gateway to learn from a higher perspective of spirit guides. Spirit guides, ancestors, what have you. And so it leads us to this illumination, this clarity, right? Which goes right into this East shield. And that East shield, with that new perspective, it gives us freedom. It gives us this creation. And there is where we get to move forward with this gorgeous new perspective. And in so doing, we begin to find ourselves thriving. And with that thriving comes a new, with the thriving, and with this new beginning, we find a thriving energy. This thriving can lead us sometimes to diving deep into aspects like being humble, being modest, how to use power, how to become a leader. And that will guide us right back to the medicine wheel, which leads us right back to, do we feel secure in the moment? Do we need to release concepts of what we believe to be true in terms of abundance? Things like this. Well, let's go deeper. Some of you may have noticed here that we have a 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So what are the cards that lead us to the number 7? We're going to go through that. So again, from my personal experience, starting from the south, we have the pipe, which is a little prayer that is given. And through this prayer, we're able to be guided to sit alone with ourselves in a ceremony of some kind. This could be sweat lodge. There's many, many different ones. And again, as previously mentioned, we won't go into the depths of how to consult or how to perform the purification ceremony of a sweat lodge. That is remaining secret. And then as we open the doors to the divine, we have a vision quest. Again, a very specific ceremony, but essentially it's seeking the counsel of our higher self, our higher being, our spirit realm, and what's called a council fire. And that leads us to the number 4 here, which is a peyote ceremony. Again, specific ceremony, but I like to explain it here as this water bird who is diving deep into this spiral here, which is the flower of life, or a mandala. And this would be the photo of eggs splitting when it becomes a next stage of its organism, right? So this is literally cells. So it's very beautiful there. And what it does is this ceremony allows you to understand your new abilities, what you're capable of with a new heightened perspective. So again, we're going through this beautiful progression of the circle. And number 5 is a very feminine energy of earth, standing people meaning trees. And it says roots and giving. I like to think of it as giving and receiving in perfect balance, being receptive. And then we have the 6 here, which is a masculine energy, and this is the sun dance. Again, private ceremony, but it's all about self-sacrifice. How can we release more in terms of the ego? How can we give of ourselves so that we can remain empty? And in remaining empty, we remain open. And being open means that we are open and ready to receive. Thus bringing us here to the number 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So this whole card deck up to the magical number of 11 is now on the table. And we go through the progression of inner peace, purification, seeking higher guidance, finding new abilities, receiving for our gifts, releasing the ego, coming back to the cycle, going south and seeing how we can tap back into the inner child and the innocence of ourselves, how we can tap into our goals and how we're here to help humanity. And we can then tap into the wisdom and, again, gratitude that will come as we provide our gifts to the world. Okay, let's go through the progression again. So what we're doing here is we're establishing a sacred space. This would be here. And we are going through some rituals, ceremonies, different modalities to progress our experience to the divine. And in so doing, we're encompassing, or we're embarking on this vision quest. And the vision quest brings us to our spirit guides, our spirit team, and also our ancestors, regardless of where they are from. And that helps us to tap into our creative power, this powerful song that we're here to sing. And that will lead us to more and more signs that it's time to tap into the sacred silence and time to go ahead and smudge or clear away again. So I think that the most powerful understanding that we come to through the medicine wheel is that it's never ending, right? We go through the cycle and it brings us back all the way to the cycle starting again. So let's do a little bit more of the progression. So now what I would like to do as far as the progression is add in the elements of water, earth, air, and fire. Water is emotions running high. Earth is material possessions, the physical. And we have the air element, which is thought. And we have the fire element, which is creation. And this brings me here to the traditional tarot. We have the cups here, emotions. We have the pentacles, which is earthy, material, physical. And then we have the swords, which is thought-provoking. And of course, we get our thoughts from the divine. It is from divine guidance that we are given our thoughts. And then we have the wands, which is the fire creation energy, the ability to create. And now I'm going to bring in a progression as far as a story to tell. So in the south here, we would have the maiden. In the west, the mother, right? Mother bear. And then we would have the sage or the guardian. And that is here for us to tap into the energy of the divine. And then we would have the crone, which is self-mastery and becoming our own. Let me organize here. And the crone is about tapping into our own self-mastery journey. So what types of things would our characters be going through on their journey? In the south, we have transformation. Here's the snake again. In the west, we have our destiny, our goals, what we're here to do to help humanity. Then we have intuition, how we're tapping into source energy. Then we have the gateway that gets to be opened, which is in between here and here. There's this spirit line, this opening that happens where spirit's able to come in and allow us to then progress with our own ideas as well as the ideas of the divine. And now we are ready to go on to our next step with this understanding of self-mastery. Okay, so there's one more energy I want to bring in, and that is a Chinese energy. So okay, the last energy that I want to bring forward is the ancient Chinese culture. So Taoism, T-A-O, is a concept or a theology that has no deity and that is rooted in a very centered circular pattern, as we have the yin and yang. So I'd like to bring attention to this symbolism here. We have all of the elements and we have all of the zodiac signs here. So this is a very, very special understanding of the masculine and feminine being in perfect balance. So we have the masculine with illumination and creativity. And then we have the feminine, which is this pregnant belly here, which is the receptive. And we have the number 1, 2, and we have 3 here, which is difficulty at the beginning. Again, how it is that we've been brought up. We have then youthful folly. For those of you who are familiar with the traditional tarot, you will know of the Fool. And then we have this 5 for waiting, persevering, and we have the conflict as we dive deeper into the swords suit, right, which would be here with the air element. We then have self-discipline from having to go through this conflict. And we have this understanding that we have to hold together. Conflict, self-mastery. Okay. 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we have the number 1 here, and we have the number 2. So the number 1 is the active yang principle, and the number 2 is the receptive yin principle. So then the progression goes that the number 3 is difficulty at the beginning. And then we have youthful folly, which for the traditional tarot people, we would have the Fool. And then we have this number 5, which is about waiting. So again, with the pregnant belly there for the mother. And then we have conflict, right? So think of parenting and having to take care of those, crazy kids. And that leads us to a number 7, which is self-mastery, discipline. And of course, holding together, having to cooperate with other ideas and bring in the other ideas from the different perspectives that we are around. And that brings us to the taming power of the small, understanding self-constraints, understanding resourcefulness and adaptability, which leads us to treading water. We go from youthful folly to then treading, and that is the thriving type energy, which leads us to this peaceful, solitary moment in time where we're able to tap into our sacred space and take a standstill. So this has a little bit more cards, but again, we go through the progression here that follows all the way to the medicine wheel starting over. And how we know that it comes to a progression is we begin to see ourselves in this standstill and this moment of peace. And what this is a moment in time to allow yourself your sacred space to just sit alone. As you see, she's sitting in the sacred circle of the medicine wheel, and we see those colors again. Okay, so let's move into the different colors. So I did mention that the colors that I always see being in these quadrants is reflective of this deck that I'm using. We have red, black, white, yellow, but you will see it many different ways. For example, this one here would be this way, is right side up. We have the red, black, and then yellow, then white. But then we have this one here, which has red, black, yellow, and then white. And you will see the medicine wheel switch depending on who posted or created the medicine wheel, and again, from which part of the Americas they were able to tap into the Native American concept of the wheel. But all in all, the concept of the wheel is a healing journey, going from the past, within, above, forward. Taking a step for emotions, a step for your ability to have patience and wait and receive, your ability to tap into the divine, to ascend, to see your higher sources coming together, and to have the creation energy to move forward and to progress with your new beginning. Okay. So this has been my rendition of the medicine wheel, as I have called from different cultures from around the world to express and to understand the elements, the placements, and how I see the divine speaking through the medicine wheel. Again, we just have so many different options for how these can be read. There are many right and wrong answers, and I'm sure people will correct me on this. However, I do believe that at the end of the day, we are all after the same goal, and that is the fifth world of peace, the sacred spiral being achieved, unity and wholeness on the planet, ascending through to the 5D, awakening our consciousness, whatever you want to call it. That is our overall most important goal, is to utilize this sacred spiral to move through our own challenges and our own rites of passage as we move through and tap into our personal sacred space. Thank you so much for being here with me. I wish you all so much love and light. I will see you in the next video. Bye.